Hi, and welcome to our latest edition of Wondering Wednesdays, in which I answer a reader's question in a video. Today's question comes to us from a reader who'd like to know where I get the inspiration for all my blog posts. And it actually comes from a few different places. For me, though, it all starts with a good editorial calendar. And that's something we've talked about here on Zen before. It's actually a suggestion that I've heard for a few years now, but it's one that I sort of stayed away from even though I was recommending it myself, because I thought it was a lot of work for not a lot of benefit. But it turns out that there actually are a ton of benefits to using a good editorial calendar. And for me, the main one is that on days when I'm not sure what I want to blog about, or I'm not sure what subjects I should think about or talk about that day, I've already got a calendar set up that gives me some suggestions. To start, what I did was I went through my existing blog, and you can do this with regular article writing too, and I looked at the subjects that I typically write about, and I thought about what I wanted to continue to write about and what I may not already write about that I would like to start to. And I made a list. And then I inserted those things into different places in the calendar. I went through it on a quarterly basis, and I decided which sort of standard things I needed to have that support the ILN. And I also looked at which things I wanted to write about, and I tried to switch it up a little bit so that it wouldn't be the same content every day. And I went from there. And what the benefit of doing that on a quarterly basis is that you can see after a few months how things are working, what may not be working for you, what subjects are a little bit harder to write about that you struggle with, that maybe you're not as interested in as you thought you were. And then you can refine it a little bit, and that's an ongoing process. But it's been a really huge benefit for me, and so I highly recommend doing that. Once I've got those areas, though, I try to keep those areas broad where I put them into the editorial calendar, because I want to leave room for things that come up that I want to be able to write about, timely topics. And so that gives me flexibility. It's also a working document, so I can move things around if I want to. That's fine too. It's not set in stone. It's just a guideline for me so that on days where I might have a little bit of writer's block or I just need some direction, I've got that in place already and I don't have to spend that extra time working there. From there, the next tip I have for you is to use an RSS reader. And for me, I have a number of different things in my RSS reader that come through that help me. The first of those is various news items, and that's news within my industry as well as around the world. And so there can be topics around the world that'll impact the legal industry and legal marketing, and I'll want to write about those, and that'll come through my feed. And same thing with industry news, something I may want to write about there. I also have links to blogs that I read regularly within the industry and outside of the industry that can inspire me. And I also have keyword searches set up in my RSS feeds for things like content marketing and business networking, so that articles and blog posts on those subjects that may inspire me and may be useful for the legal industry will also come up in my reader, and I can use those as well. So you can do that for pretty much any type of industry you're in, any type of practice area you have. Just set up a few different keywords, things that you know are important, things that are of interest to you, and things that you'd like to write about. And same thing with the blogs. Find the blogs that you like to read. And it's not just blogs, it's also news sources. The New York Times has RSS feeds. So if there's an organization whose paper copy you normally read and maybe you want to start reading it on your mobile device, set that up in your RSS reader and you've got that right at your fingertips whenever you want it. When I find something of interest to me in that reader, which I pretty much use exclusively on my phone, I'll forward it to myself in an email. And then when I'm crafting my blog post, I will reference that, usually with a quote and a link back to it. You can do that with articles too. Obviously, you're not necessarily going to link in an article, but you can reference the author. And then that's also a great opportunity for networking once you've written it, because you can reach out to that person and tell them that their piece meant enough to you that you wrote more about it and you posted it to your blog or some other publication. The other place I go for inspiration is various networking groups, and that can be online or offline. We all go to different networking functions, and you may have conversations with people that really strike you as very interesting and thought-provoking, and they get you thinking, and on the way home you're considering more about it, and some ideas come to mind that you want to share yourself. That's a great opportunity to write a blog post or an article. Same thing online. I belong to a few different groups on LinkedIn, on Facebook, And especially in one group on Facebook that I belong to, there's a lot of robust discussion that comes there. And that tells me what the trends and the interests in the industry are. And that's the hot button issues that I want to be talking about and be on the cutting edge of. And so I'll add my 2 cents through a blog post and then share it in those groups with people to say, you know, this is what I'm thinking. It's also a good opportunity if you want to quote somebody. You do, of course, want to ask permission, and I make sure to do that too. But it's another great way to network, to build relationships, and also to be having those conversations that people in the industry feel are important. And finally, another excellent place for content generation is your own clients. There are going to be questions that you get regularly in your area of practice that are going to come in by email, by phone, that kind of thing. And without giving specific client information, you can answer those questions in a general sort of way in an article or blog post, things that are going to be useful to people. Similarly, when a new piece of legislation comes up or there's a new ruling in your area of practice, that may be a great time to write something about how that's going to impact your clients. Again, you don't have to be specific by client because of client confidentiality reasons, of course, but you can be answering things in a general way that speaks to the people who are most interested in your type of work, as well as the people who may want to hire you in the future. So those are some tips for developing some content. Hopefully they help you. If you have any of your own tips that I haven't covered, please feel free to add those in the comments below. And if you have a question for Wondering Wednesdays, please let us know in the comments what you're wondering about.